This is Gemara Nedarim Daf Mem Gimel, and we pick it up from the bottom of Mem Bees, Amid Bees. We're holding at the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, a very similar and classical Mishnah to many Mishnayos we've been learning together. Ha-moider hana mechaveroi. So makes a neder enough from his friend. What is the halacha? And this we've learned very similar halachas to this. So hopefully today will be a little bit of a chazara as well. Says the Mishnah, Lo yishalenu v'lo yishal mimenu. You cannot lend to him, nor can you borrow from him. And all the inquiring and brightful minds that are awake right now are wondering that something sounds funny. Every neder hana is usually one way. I made a neder enough from you, or you made a neder enough from me. I can't lend to you, or you can't lend to me. It's very interesting from the offset and piques our curiosity. Why does it go both ways? Continues the Mishnah that lo yalvenu v'lo yalve mimenu. Again, you cannot lend nor borrow from him. V'lo yimchikar lo, you cannot sell to him. Lo yikach mimenu, nor can you buy from him. So definitely a little bit of an interesting din that we're learning in the Mishnah, that we have seemingly a simple neder hana mechaverai, which, as we're seeing right now, is turning into something quite extreme almost. Seems that the fact that there's a neder hana, all of a sudden there's some two-way street that both people cannot get benefit. What exactly is going on over here will be the topic of our discussion today. So says the Gemara, as we turn over to Mem Gimel and Aleph, asks the question that we just articulated. It makes sense that the one who made the neder cannot lend money to the other person. Hati. Why does it make sense? Because you're giving him benefit and you're not allowed to benefit him. Ella, but what about the other way? Why is the other way forbidden? You cannot borrow from him. What benefit is there? And now the Gemara continues asking the same question on the next step of the Mishnah. Why? You're getting benefit. However, when it says that you should not be able to borrow from him, so the same question. So you know why? Because the Mishnah is not a simple neder hana. It's not a one-way street, but rather the case in the Mishnah particularly is there's a two-way neder, Reuven from Shimon and Shimon from Reuven. Answer number one of Rav Yosi Rav Chanina. Answer number two, Amar Abaye Amar, it's a gezeira, as we've seen it numerous times already. Says Abaye gezeira lishol mishum lahashil v'chein bechulu gezeira. Says Abaye, you're right. Really, it should only be a one-way street. Really, it should only be forbidden the way that there is the neder. However, says Abaye, because that we're nervous you're going to come to do this, we made a gezeira forbidding the other way as well. And we continue with the next Mishnah, which is a direct segue from the sugya that we're talking about. The fact that we said you cannot lend money to someone that you're under neder, that there is a forbiddance to get benefit from. So continues the Mishnah about a loan. Now, I say direct segue in the fact that it's dealing with a halva, it's dealing with a loan. However, it's really not a direct segue. Why? Because it's not dealing with Nedarim at all. But let's get to it. Says the Mishnah and Gimel and Aleph, about 8 lines down. Amar loy. If someone says to him, Heshileni parasecha, please lend me your cow. Amar loy, he responds, I'm sorry. Einai penuya. It's not available. I can't give it to him. Omar. So the guy gets upset. Why can't you lend me your cow? So the man says, Omar, koinom she'adai she'sadai shani chayrish ba. So the person who was denied the cow says, you know what? My field will never be plowed with that cow. Interesting, almost, cutting off his nose despite his face, but he was enraged. What? You don't want to give me your cow, so you know what? I don't need your cow. My field will never be touched by your cow. And of course, lo and behold, whether it's Murphy's Law or not, or other some, whatever we call it, the man eventually acquiesces, says, you know what, my cow's free, let me give it to you. But the problem is, he made a neder, because he said, lo ilam. So says the Mishnah, if we're dealing with a person that generally plows the field himself, who aser mutar, then he is not allowed to use that cow, because he's the one that usually plows the field. He said he's making neder from the cow. Done, finished. But what about someone else? Could he have his servant, could he have his son, could he have his workers work on his field with that cow? Yes, because there's no neder on such an entity. However, continues the Mishnah that but if he's not normal that he plows the field himself, then, and he made such a neder, hu v'chol adam asurin. So says the Gemara, not the Gemara, it sounds like a Gemara, but says the Mishnah, what's going on over here is everything depends on what is the normal. If the normal is you work yourself and you made such a neder, then you are forbidden. What about someone else? Kol hakavod. But if it's normal that anyone works in it, then everyone is forbidden due to the neder that you made. Case A in our Mishnah. Case B. Says the Mishnah, okay, this sounds like a more of a normal Nedarim style Mishnah. Hopefully this sounds familiar. We had this at the end of Ksubis. Someone makes a neder ana from his friend, but then he needs him. Reuven says to Shimon, I'm not getting benefit from you, but then Reuven is starving. But he wants to get something to eat, so what does he do? He goes to the storekeeper that he normally goes to, and he says, so Shimon goes to the store and says, I cannot directly benefit Reuven, and I don't know what to do for him. Meaning, Shimon says to the storekeeper, I feel so bad. Reuven can't get benefit from me, but he's starving. Storekeeper is a smart man and he realizes what's going on. So the storekeeper goes and he feeds Reuven. And then he goes and he can collect from him. So even though there's indirect benefit in such a scenario, and although the Mefarish here speaks out, although the storekeeper knows that he's going to pay, since he did not tell him, it's allowed. Meaning, Shimon is going to pick up the tab. Why else is he telling the storekeeper? Still, the storekeeper could go and give it to Reuven. Shimon could subsequently pick up the tab, and it's not called being over on the neder. Similarly, continues the Mishnah, the person who is in under the neder has a house to build, kedro yiligdar, a fence to erect, sadeu liksar, a field to reap, to cut, so similarly, Shimon goes to workers, and he can tell the workers, Reuven is not letting any benefit from me, I don't know what to do. They understand him, so they're going to work for Reuven, and Shimon is going to pick up the tab. Case B in the Mishnah. And finally, case C of the Mishnah, they're traveling together on the road, and Reuven is starving. I should say case C, this is really part of category B, just another application. Again, Reuven can't get benefit from Shimon, they're traveling, and Reuven runs out of snacks, but he knows his friend Shimon can't give it to him. So what could Shimon do? Shimon could call over some guy off the road and say, hey, listen, here's a present. And the other guy, mutter, and then Reuven, and Reuven is mutter ba. Because I gave it to someone else, now Reuven can take it from him. Let's say there's no one else, and there's no one on the road, and Reuven is starving, and Shimon has food, but Shimon can't give it to Reuven. What could Shimon do? Maniach ala sela, take the food, put on a rack, oyala geder, and put on a fence, v'oimer, and say, hare, Hein muf karim, they're hefker, they're ownerless literally. L'chalmi sheyach boitz, anyone who wants. V'hala, and the other guy, noitel v'eichel, could come and eat it. Rav Yosi oiser. So Shimon almost sounds like shtick. It sounds like halachic loopholes. Shimon cannot directly benefit Ruvain, but he can go to the storekeeper, he can go to the workers, he could give his food to someone else, or ultimately, he could be mafker the food and let Ruvain take it straight from Hefker. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yochanan, my time of Rav Yosi. So we pick it up from this last case in the Mishnah. The Rav Yosi came along, and Rav Yosi was bothered. And Rav Yosi says it can't be. You can't make the item Hefker, and he's going to take it from there. You know why? Says the Gemara, a fundamental idea in Shitas Rav Yosi. Kosavar Hefker Kimatana. We would think, as we translated in the Mishnah, what is Hefker making an item ownerless? I take the item, I take the cup, I take the food, I put it on the rack, and I say it's ownerless. Now Reuven can come and take it. Says Rav Yosi, no, that's not Hefker. Hefker is like a matana. What does that mean? Explains the Gemara 4 lines from the bottom. Matana. What is a matana? That A gives this item to B. So when B acquires from A, then it is a gift because there was an acquisition. So too, says Rav Yosi of Hefker, the item is not anything until it goes to Rishus of the Zeicha. So in Lomdis, it appears that the mechanics of Rav Yosi is as follows. Normally, I have this cup, I want to make it Hefker, I take it, I put it on the rack, I say it's Hefker. What is the status of the cup right now? It is ownerless. No one owns it. I made it Hefker. According to Rav Yosi, it's not true. According to Rav Yosi, as the cup sits on the rack, what is it? My cup still. When someone else comes and takes it, then the ownership transfers to him. But until that point, it is my cup. And therefore, says Rav Yosi, if I can't benefit another person and I put the cup here, he can't go take it. Why not? Because if he's taking it, who's he taking it from? He's taking it from me. Because Rav Yosi does not hold that Hefker is an entity of ownerless. Hefker is a mid-stage, a pause, a stop, a freeze between me and that person. That is the explanation, says the Gemara, of Shitas Rav Yosi. Asks the Gemara 2 lines from the bottom, Mosiv Rav Abba. Rav Abba did not like this explanation of Rav Yochanan, how he explained Rav Yosi. Asks Rav Abba, what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said the Tanakhama holds put it on the rack till the guy takes it. Rav Yosi says it is forbidden. Omar Rav Yosi. So now we have a brisa, as always, and as commonly, that elaborates a bit more on the case of the Mishnah, same case as the Mishnah. Says the Brisa Amar Rav Yosi in the last line, Emasai. When is this thing true? When is it true that he can't take the item and put it on the rack and make it Hefker? Bizman shenadroi koidem lahefkeroi. Is only if you made the neder hana before you made it hefker, like the case that we're referring to. From the contrast, hopefully will add us a lot of clarity. Aval, however, then harei ze mutter. So explains the Gemara, explains Rav Yosi himself, I should say, in the Brisa, that Rav Yosi teaches that this din is only in one scenario, is only in the case if the hefker was after the neder, like the way we played out the Mishnah. Reuven makes a neder from Shimon. Shimon wants to benefit Reuven. Shimon takes cup and puts it on the rack. But says Rav Yosi, let's say it was the other way. Let's say Shimon first put the cup on the rack and said it's hefker. Then Reuven made the neder. Then Reuven would, yes, be able to take it. So now the Gemara articulates the question 2 lines down. On Chav Mem Gimel and Beis if the lomdis of Rav Yosi, like we just explained, is you put the cup on the rack and it's no one's, no, incorrect, and it's mine, oh, there it goes, everyone was waiting for that one, and it's mine until you take it, if that is the lomdis, Mali Nidroi Koidim Lefkeiroi, Mali Efkeiroi Koidim Nidroi, even in a scenario that I first go and I put this on the rack and I make it Hefker, and then I make a neder, what's the difference? According to Rav Yosi, Hefker is linked with owner's list. According to Rav Yosi, the way that Rav Yochanan explained it is Hefker is mine. Great, so what's the difference if I made it pre or post the neder? That is the kasha on Rav Yochanan. Rav Abba himself answers. He was the one that asked the kasha, 4 lines down. He answers, Kol hanoider ain't daita masha hefker. It's not a kasha. When you go make a neder, your das is not on that which you make hefker. Meaning, the Gemara is saying we could stick with the explanation of Rav Yechon. We could stick to Rav Yossi old when he takes his item and he puts it on the rack. And he says, it's hefker. What is it? It's not ownerless. It's still mine until you take it. If that is the case, so why if you first made it hefker and then you made a neder, then it's allowed according to Rabbi Yossi? You know why, says the Gemara? Because when I made the neder after I put the cup on the rack, I didn't have das, that the neder shemichal on the cup, because I made it hefker. So that's why it works. But nothing to do with the lumdis kasha on Rabbi Yossi. So we conclude with one more kasha, masiv Rava. Says Rava, makes us in the Rishon V'kul L'Sheni if someone is very, very sick and he gives some of his properties to one person and all of them to a second person. What's the halacha? Rishon kaineh, sheni loy kaineh. The first person acquires it and the second person gets absolutely nothing. Of course, this is in a scenario that the sick person gets better. So the first person that got part of the estate gets part of it and the second person gets nothing. So what do we see from this case? We see that when a sick person gives away his matana, we say that he intended to include even that which he already gave away to the first person. So asks the Gemara, so too when someone first is mafkir and then is menader and then makes a neder, seemingly his neder should include that which he originally made hefker, and therefore we're back to the kasha and Rav Yechon's explanation of Rav Yossi, and therefore it concludes today's Gemara 4 lines from the bottom. Rava, Hainu Taima de Rav Yossi. I'm going to tell you a new reasoning of Rav Yossi. That what gezera mishamatanas beis chayron. The reason of Rav Yossi is not an intrinsic din. The reason why Rav Yossi does not allow the case of putting the food on the rack and being mafkir is a gzeira dirabanan. As the Ran over here, 2 lines on the wide line speaks out, that umidina Vaday afilu Rav Yossi shari meikar adin. Even Rav Yossi agrees it works. Why? Because he made a hefker leaves your rishos. Elo. So what's the reason Rav Yossi in the Mishnah said it's ulcer? The kivon. The reason being because we all know you're pulling shtick, says Rav Yossi. Tanan sadi. We know you did not make it ownerless. Elo kadesh yizka moider. Only so that he gets it. If we were to allow this to happen, we're worried that we're afraid, like the story of Beis Chur in which someone made something hefker not with full intent and they messed up the story over there. So we make a gzeira because we know you're trying to pull shtick. That is the reason why Rav Yossi says it does not work. And we'll pick it up from the Tanya from the Brisa the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.